Welcome to the exam debrief for December 2013 for paper F9 Financial Management. My name is Rob Sowerby and I'm here to take you through, just discuss through the issues associated with this mock exam. Now, please remember, when we write the mock exams here, we write them with the specific exam in mind. So they are unique questions prepared by our team of expert tutors with a view to giving you the best understanding of the sort of thing that you can reasonably expect to see in the exam. Now, that being the case, what we have to appreciate is we try as best we can to reflect the style and the techniques that are used by your examiner. And to a large extent, I think we've been really rather successful in this exam. The only caveat I would have to that is that there are certain things that we feel we have to put in the exam, and maybe there's a little bit more theory in this exam than you would expect. That's because I want to hammer home that you need to know something before you go into the exam hall. With that in mind, what I would like to do is to go straight to, well, the first thing I want to look at are the requirements, because as far as I'm concerned, the way that you deal with an exam is you spend your 15 minutes reading time looking at the requirements and assessing three clear things. The first thing is you have to choose. Now, I'm not going to do the choice, that's up to you, but we'll discuss the relative merits of each of the questions as we go through. Secondly, you have to assess the timing, how much time you're going to spend on question 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And thirdly, what is the examiner trying to get at? A lot of this is pretty obvious. There are some straightforward computations that are required time and again by your examiner, but other aspects require you to think about it. So those three things you focus on in the 15 minutes reading time. With that in mind, let's look at question 1 and just consider the requirements. Nothing more, just the requirements. I'm hoping that this looks like a very straightforward question to you. Calculate the NPV of the MTD project. How many times has net present value come up? Well, the issue is NPV comes up every time. Can't guarantee it comes up into the future, but it's a highly likely topic. We notice that there is a 13-mark allocation, but please pick up on a very simple point, the word and. So we have to calculate and we have to comment. Comment on whether this project is financially acceptable to PEP. Now, if we're looking at this comment, obviously we're going to say that we accept or reject the project, but I also want you to tell the examiner why. So, you and I know that when we look at a net present value, if it's positive, the suggestion is that shareholder wealth will increase today as a result of taking the project. If it's negative, shareholder wealth will fall. That is what you must tell the examiner. We will accept, if that's what it was, because shareholder wealth will increase. Expand, make sure that the examiner gets a full answer there. Two reasons for that. There could be a couple of marks on offer, although unlikely. The other issue is that you are trying to build confidence in the mind of the examiner that you know what you're talking about. So, we've calculated NPV. Once we've done that, we calculate the IRR. And comment. Well, okay. If we're calculating the IRR, we would normally expect any decision from the IRR to be consistent with the decision of the net present value. It's not always the case, but I must say if the examiner's past questions are anything to go by, if you have accepted based on NPV, you will also accept based on IRR. Again, if we're commenting on the financial viability or acceptability to PEP, I want you to say that we are going to accept, and of course the issue in terms of acceptance for IRR is if the rate of return, the IRR, earned by the project is greater than the cost of capital, we would accept. Okay? So we say accept or reject, and we say why. Notice here the mark allocation is pretty heavy. There are 17 marks here, and reasonably you should be looking to get the vast majority of those marks. I know in the exam it is possible that you will make a mistake, very possible, that's just the way it works. But at the same stage, we know that with a question like this, everybody else in the exam hall is going to do well, so you must make sure that you do well as well. Okay? It is a core competence and no more. Then we look at part C, discuss the key issues. So, I'm thinking that the key issues is the overall subject, that would be my header to start with, and then we're told about identifying, evaluating, authorising, monitoring and controlling capital investment projects. Now, this is a knockabout discussion question. We look at the mark allocation, 8 marks. Now, at the very least, we've got to walk away from here with 4 marks. And I don't think it's going to be very difficult. And the reason why it's not difficult here is, although we may not have a fantastic oversight of how this will work, all we're looking for is a reasonable discussion of the process by which we identify, by which we select, and so on, an investment project. So there's a lot of common sense within this answer. And the great thing for me is this. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 headers to work to. My first header will be identifying the project, and I will write about how we identify it. Presumably, you would identify a project because of a perceived need by the organisation, maybe a replacement of an asset, or because we're looking for a new project. There you go, discuss around that for a couple of sentences, and you'll get a couple of marks. Evaluating. Well, hold on a moment. Didn't we just evaluate whether the project was good or bad up here? Now, of course, one aspect of the evaluation could be NPV and IRR, but there is a wider evaluation of the project, not just the financial numbers, but also other issues as well. So, I would expect a common sense answer here to very comfortably score 6 marks. The key is that when we look at this requirement, part C, that is the discriminator in the exam. Because as I've said already, A and B, the vast majority of people in the exam room will have a solid attempt at it and be scoring 13, 14, 15, 16 marks. It's how you do in C that determines whether you are better or worse than the common herd that is around you in the exam hall. Other issues, of course. Remember, the whole way that we manage our time is by requirement. So if we're looking at our time here, 1.8 minutes a mark, I would suggest that maybe we spend 20 minutes here, maybe 10 minutes here, and maybe 15 minutes here. Notice, I always allocate time in terms of 5-minute chunks. There's no point getting more sophisticated than that. There's my suggested time allocation. If you want to do something different, that is fine by me. So that was question 1. We've obviously discussed quite a lot of bits and pieces with it, and we will run through the answer in a moment. Okay? But let's first of all go through questions 2, 3, and 4.